Hello everyone, so welcome back to another Symphogear episode. This is a breakdown of episode 2, what happens and how I feel about it. So let's get into this. So this is Noise and Disharmony. So at the start of this we get a continuation from episode 1 where Hibiki had just transformed. And unlike some other animes where characters almost immediately know how to use their powers and are completely overpowered, Hibiki gets thrown around a lot, all while Gekshou Gungnir, her character song, is playing in the background. That'll be linked down in the description below because it's a really nice song to listen to, like most of the Symphogear songs. She's unable to control her new powers, she's getting thrown around all over the place, and it just so happens that when she puts up her arm to defend herself against one of the noise that jumps at her, that on impact with her fist, it disintegrates into ash, a bit like when the noise contact humans and the humans do the exact same thing. So this gives her a clue that the only way that she can really defeat any noise is by to punch or kick them with a Symphogear. It's at this point Tsubasa comes to her rescue after she gets surrounded with them tracking Gungnir's signal from her transformation, and she destroys all the noise in the area in one of the arguably most brutal ways that she can, which is going at everything in the nearby area with increased speed and aggression, primarily because, one, she's annoyed that somebody else has Kanade's Gungnir, and two, it's the simple fact of she's still suffering a lot of the symptoms of grief. She's incredibly angry at this point, and she's obviously still forcing it on herself to do everything on her own. So, in finding out that Gungnir is being wielded by somebody else, she just comes flying straight in, and we get to see a lot of what will be her signature moves in the future. Azure Flash, which is a giant wave of blue enemy that carves through anything in its path with a violent set of electrical sparks that just get fired out all over the place, which looks fantastic. 1,000 Falling Tears, where she spawns thousands of copies of her blade in midair that are then fired down at enemies at high speed that just impale them really fast. And then finally Heaven's Wrath, where her sword grows to about the size of a truck, and then is dropped or kicked at the enemy from a great height that causes massive damage to everything, enemies and the surroundings included. And it's all great to see. It's all cut really well, so you get to really see the emphasis on the speed and the aggression. And it's after this battle we get to see what happens in one of the few rare instances on screen to the noise and anybody else really that gets caught up in the battles. And that's the cleanup crew coming in to wipe away all evidence, vacuuming up all the remains, and Hibiki gets treated to a nice warm drink. That is before being taken back to Section 2 with Tsubasa. And meanwhile, the government are enforcing non-disclosure agreements on the little girl's family, the little girl that Hibiki rescued, just to make sure nobody's telling somebody, things that they shouldn't, make sure that they don't have any leaks. When Hibiki's arrested and then taken back to Lydian, we get to see a special area built under the girls' school, and it's here we're introduced to the main supporting cast. And Genjiro makes his other appearance after surviving the attack on the stadium. Genjiro's the guy with the red hair, along with Ogawa, Tsubasa's aide, who will slowly evolve over the other seasons into something a lot more than what he seems right now. And Ryoko Sakurai, the scientist, who has a strange personality that flips between formal and kind of seductive, something to keep an eye on for later on. Hibiki spends some time with meeting everyone in Section 2 and getting to know them, and after this they give a medical checkup. We don't see the results of this until later on in the episode, but what we do see is Hibiki then, after all of this, dragging herself back to her dorm, only to be found by Miku, who was worried about her, obviously, because the last time Miku saw her, she went out to get a CD, and then next moment, noise are just attacking everywhere, and obviously it's nighttime by now, so she's wondering what the hell happened. Obviously, Hibiki can't tell Miku about her power or anything else, so she just has to say she got lost. But she's totally fine now, and it's when we see the noise report on TV, we also get a hint at how much time has passed as well, because we see another report on TV about Tsubasa potentially going and recording music overseas, and there's a little bit of information dropped here mentioning the stadium attack and how Tsubasa has kind of come into her own sort of label for singing after 2 years have passed since the stadium attack. So already we've got a 2-year time gap between episode 1 and 2, and then also the jump at the beginning. So we're a bit all over the place right now, but it's going to stay consistent for most of the other episodes. Hibiki and Miku both climb into bed in the dorm, with Hibiki relaxing on Miku's shoulder, realizing that, or rather saying that the closer she is to Miku, the more relaxed and happy she feels. And she kind of mutters this as she quickly falls asleep on Miku's shoulder. And Miku wants to tell Hibiki how she feels about her, but unfortunately it's too late, with Hibiki already in a deep sleep, leaving her just wishing her a good night before getting some rest. And we'll see this kind of thing going on throughout the other series as well, as that most of the characters have some sort of feelings for each other, but they don't really express them too well, and it gets woven into the story as well. With Hibiki getting some rest, we get to see Tsubasa after all of this in the shower, and she's remembering Kanade and her fighting together, and this is all played with a somber rendition of Gakyo no Fugal in the background, the same song that they sang 2 years ago, and it's also one of the show's main themes that they use quite frequently. With her not willing to accept Hibiki now has Gungnir, or now as its user, due to it meaning that she'll have to face her grief over and over again as she's reminded that Kanade is no longer here with her. After the class the next day, Hibiki goes to Section 2 again to find out the results of her medical, and we get to see that there are no real sort of downsides to her using Symphogear at the moment. There's no sort of stress on her body, and here we get an explanation of how relics work, and then we also get a explanation as to how Hibiki has her powers, because we see that Tsubasa has a pendant, which is her relic, and it's made up of a small fragment of a blade that was used in the past in sort of either a myth or a legend, and it's been turned via technology into this pendant that can then be opened, and the energy inside it is released with a certain frequency, and that happens to be singing. And all of this technology is scattered around the globe, left over again from myths and legends. And the reason why there's only a few of them, or why they're so rare, is primarily because of time passing. Time, as we all know, destroys things like ancient monuments and other things with weathering. So the same thing has happened to this ancient technology. It's just been completely eroded over time, so with few remaining, it's not exactly as if you're going to get like 100 Symphogear wielders. And this is all made possible by Ryoko being the one that takes this technology and makes it into this armor. What happens is when the user sings, the energy released then transforms into the armor that they were, and then gives them the new abilities. And it also acts as sort of this anti-noise gear that makes sure that when they're hit by noise, it doesn't disintegrate them like normal people. And then we also get an explanation, like I was saying before, about Hibiki's condition. Hibiki doesn't have a traditional Symphogear. What she has is the remains of Gungnir that were embedded in her chest that we saw in episode 1 during Kanade's final fight. And the hundreds of fragments that she's got embedded in her chest can't be removed surgically because they're too close to her heart. And this is where she gets her power from, the remnants of Gungnir. And as this is all being explained, we have Tsubasa seemingly having panic attacks or some sort of attack due to her grief. Again, because she seemingly still doesn't want to accept any of this. And she runs out of the room. And when this happens, we also get an alarm going off to trigger the noise attacking nearby, forcing both of them to kind of go out real quickly and confront the new enemies. And here's where we see a load of enemies just combine into this large, almost like a frog-style thing. And we get to see both Tsubasa and Hibiki teaming up to defeat it, with Tsubasa yet again carving through both the enemy and the surrounding road surface with another Azure Flash. And just when it looks like things are over and calming down, Hibiki offers Tsubasa to fight with her, and Tsubasa, who's still unable to accept Hibiki as Gungnir's wielder, then uses this as a chance to confront the inexperienced Hibiki to a fight. So we get Symphogear versus Symphogear at the end of the episode as it leads on into a to be continued. So I like this episode primarily because we get a lot of explanation. It's got a lot of, I would say, not so much grounded info to it, but it definitely feels as though you can kind of relate to it, and it feels somewhat realistic in terms of the explanations, especially for things being lost in the past and then found and repurposed. I like that. The whole thing about singing, I think I mentioned this in the first episode, but if I didn't, then I'll just go over it again. Originally with the show, the singing was meant to be used as like backing songs, but then I think it was one of the producers or one of the characters, one of the people that do the voiceover for the characters decided to try using it as the characters singing while fighting, and it just stuck from there. So I like the way that they explain that as well. Overall, I like the action, I like the pacing. It wasn't too slow, wasn't too fast. They managed to balance out the action with the story, and that'll only continue as we go forwards. Anyway, what did you guys think? I'll see you in the comments section down below, and until next time, thank you very much for watching. Again, song links in the description too, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye!